What's up guys, Brian here with BPS Customs. I reviewed Thermaltake's first chassis in the View series back in October of 2016 when I took an in-depth look at the View 27. Since then, the 27 has been upgraded to the 28 and Thermaltake has brought to market the next evolution in the series, the View 31. What makes this case deserving of the View moniker and what makes it different than its predecessor? Let's find out. Now before we dive into the View 31, let's just quickly revisit some of my previous work with Thermaltake cases. I reviewed the Core X1 and the View 27, and I've built in the Core V1 and V21 for the channel. All of my previous experiences have been pretty similar. There are some really innovative features built into a lot of Thermaltake products, and their insistence on making as many parts modular as possible is really fantastic. However, there have always been lingering questions about build quality, fit, and finish, which often manifest themselves in things like the problems I had with the View 27 side panel window. Despite that though, the building experience is often pleasant, if not exceptional. The View 31 shares little with previous Thermaltake case offerings besides the modular features. It's a premium offering at a moderately premium price, coming in at $130 for the RGB version you see here. The build quality is much improved overall, and this feels like a much more solid piece of construction than the last few products I've worked with from them. The View 31 gets its name from the most prominent feature of the case, the dual tempered glass side panels that give full view to the interior from both sides. The panels are 4mm thick and slightly tinted, although not enough to impair visibility in any way. I really like the way they've rimmed the glass panes with a thin metal strip and opaque border, allowing for easy handling without having to muck up the glass, but being unobtrusive enough to take away nothing from the overall appearance. What does disappoint me here though is the inclusion of standard thumb screws to hold on the side panels. Come on Thermaltake, this is a no-brainer in 2017 on a case that's clearly not budget oriented. The front panel does not disrupt the lines or appearance of the case in any way, and although it may appear at first glance to also be made of glass, it's actually a heavily tinted acrylic. I have no issues with the use of acrylic here, as the front of the case usually doesn't see as much abuse as the left side. Now on the right side of the front panel is a mesh-backed airflow grille, which I would have preferred to be duplicated on the left side as well to help keep temps down. The front panel removes with a firm tug, or sometimes two tugs, and behind it we get our first glimpse at two of the included three 140mm RGB ring fans, but unfortunately no additional dust filters since the front panel airflow grille is already filtered. If you remove those fans, you can potentially fit up to a 360mm radiator here. Moving up to the top of the case, we see a nicely spaced out I/O configuration with two USB 2, two USB 3, a power and reset switch that feel really nice, and your standard audio jacks. We also find a magnetically attached dust filter covering the mounting positions for up to three 120mm fans or a 360mm radiator. On the bottom of the case, 4 feet provide plenty of clearance even if you have the View 31 sitting on a carpet, which you definitely shouldn't do anyway. The bottom mount dust filter can pull out from either the front or the back of the case in similar fashion for cleaning. It actually runs the entire length of the chassis, filtering air to the power supply as well as shielding the bottom fan mounts from dust. Now cracking this puppy open, we find a long list of features inside that I really like and a few that are slightly disappointing but not deal breakers. First up on my list of likes is the general layout of the motherboard tray. It comes with pre-installed standoffs and a nice size CPU cutout for fan mounting. The grommeted openings on the right side are plentiful and varied in position, allowing for many different configurations to be able to utilize them properly. The drive cage is another really nice touch. As with the majority of Thermaltake products these days, the cage is entirely removable if you'd rather mount your drive somewhere else. The sleds are still made of plastic, but it's a hardy and thick material that doesn't flex much at all and feels much better than some of their previous offerings. Well, if you remove the cage and still need to put an SSD in, where does it go? Well, that's another part of what makes these sleds so cool. You actually take the same sleds that go in the drive cage, pop some storage into them, and toollessly mount them to the rear of the motherboard tray in any one of 3 positions. If you're worried about how this might affect your cable management space back there, don't. This is one of the deepest ATX mid-towers I've ever seen, with over 1.5 inches of clearance for your cables, in addition to plenty of cable tie-down points, which I'm always really happy to see. Keeping on with our look at the back side of the tray, not much else stands out here as there's no built-in cable channel, clips, or bars to help you manage your mess. The case does come with some nice plastic reusable cable ties though. Flipping back around to the main compartment, we come to be looking directly at the strange bracket right in the middle of the party. This is the included vertical GPU mount, and it's solid as can be. Thermaltake unfortunately does not include their PCIe riser cable here, so if you want to take advantage of this feature, you'll need to shell out the extra cheese for it. The construction here though is what caught my eye, and is consistent throughout the case. It's a departure from thin steel and loose tolerance issues that have turned some people off from Thermaltake's previous releases, and it's certainly a welcome change. Panning up the rear wall, we see the third included RGB LED fan, all of the 140mm variety. If you look closely enough though, you can see that these fans actually do not include either a standard PWM connection for plugging into your motherboard header or some sort of power connection to juice up the LEDs. What they do have is a proprietary 5-pin connector that hooks up to the included RGB control module that you'll have to find a happy place to mount inside the case. Thermaltake thoughtfully includes some Velcro pads for this purpose, and the controller isn't outlandishly sized, so you shouldn't really have any issues nesting it somewhere back behind the tray. One of the small gripes I have with the right side of the interior is all of this open space. I understand that it's used for mounting things, passing cables through, and maybe when you have some hard drives installed back there, it won't be quite as obvious. However, was there any real reason they couldn't have made this more solid, or at least included removable panels like Fantex does? Especially with the entire case being see-through, having big open gaps like this seems like a poor choice. But overall, I think this is actually a pretty solid value buy. You get a full tempered glass experience, improved build quality and tight tolerances, and 3 140mm RGB enabled fans for your $130. Those fans are $60 by themselves. Plus, you have the built-in option of a vertical GPU mount. This is also by far the nicest looking case I've ever reviewed from Thermaltake, with clean, understated lines and a full feature set. It would be a great addition to any desk, and I look forward to building in it soon. So what are your thoughts on Thermaltake's View 31? Are you interested in building in it as well? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, don't forget to click that little like button down there and get subscribed to the channel if you're not already. As always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.